Hey, welcome on in to The Reckoning. It is time. It is 4 o'clock, time for, and I realize, Fish, I got a camera set up, but I didn't turn the second one on, I don't think. So I'll let you hit that. That's my fault. It's me trying to be helpful, and then everything goes awry. But that's how it is. 4 o'clock, time for The Reckoning. Lots to cover today, and we're going to get right down into it. Thanks for being on in with us. If you want to chime in today in the conversation, let me encourage you to do that a few different ways. You can, of course, get the Real Talk Radio app downloaded. If you don't have it, go to your local app store, Real Talk 93.3. That's where you'll find it. Patriotic Eagle logo is the one you want to download. And then, of course, you can also chime in on the social media channels. Just search for Real Talk Radio Network, Facebook, Rumble, X, Instagram. Hit me up on the live chat or call in 636-224-6300. That's 636-224-6300. And then when you do that, let me know what is on your mind. Tell us what's going on. Of course, thank you to our huge sponsors. They make this possible every single day. Brian Dawson Roofing, Grace Hauling, the Prestige Financial Group, that's Steve Tornatore, and, of course, the Tilted Skillet down in Washington and Union, Missouri. And now we have finally hit all of the housekeeping. The housekeeping behind us, it's time to move over. I have Dr. Pastor Jonathan Swan in with me. Is it?
Hey.
Hi, Jonathan. How are you?
I'm well.
Good. Folks, you may remember he was with me just a few weeks ago. They've got a great series of events happening here in St. Charles County over at First Baptist O'Fallon that are coming up. We're going to talk a little bit about that, plus a bunch of other stuff. He's going to hang out with me for, I've got you captive for an hour. At least
all right.
That's what's on
Let's
my schedule.
Okay. Yeah,
But,
that's on my schedule as well.
I didn't look this
They do
up.
match.
There's okay, so one of my favorite nerdy websites is called Forms of Address. There's a guy who's like, he's written the whole book. He is Emily Post, but the modern man, and he has all of how to address people formally.
Okay.
How do I order this? Because you are a doctor,
Yeah.
also a pastor. Is this
Right.
Dr. Pastor Jonathan Swan, or is it Pastor Dr. Jonathan Swan? How do I order this?
I always tell people just call me Jonathan or John, but if you're going to have to formalize it, I mean, I'm an ordained pastor, so you have Reverend.
Oh my gosh.
And then I'm a PhD, so doctor, so you could call me Reverend Doctor.
The Reverend Dr.
Jonathan Swan. Now we were in a staff meeting today at First Baptist O'Fallon, and we were talking about emails and filters and spams, and I said, yeah, I'm not getting any emails. I've told everybody that I only accept emails that address me as the Honorable Jonathan Swan, and so I'm not getting them. You can add that in there if you want as well.
Okay, well, I'm not
Jonathan
going to
works.
add honorable, but I will add the, and we're going to go with the Reverend Dr. Swan.
Okay. Oh gosh.
Because, there was a lot of, I watched Jesse Jackson's funeral, and there was a lot of the Reverend.
Oh, yeah.
The Reverend
For
Doctor,
sure.
the Reverend that. So anyway, it
For
would be
sure.
the Reverend Dr. Swan, local minister. I'm really appreciative
true.
that you're back on. True, it is true. It is true. We've got a lot of fun stuff to cover today. Of course, you've got an op-ed up in World Mag on Amendment 3 here in Missouri, which is increasingly becoming a very spicy topic on the right.
Yeah.
I think rightly so. I'm excited that this conversation is being had. I feel like I've been alone in my hyper pro-lifism for years inside a Republican Party that was very incremental. So I'm glad that this is happening. But there's more than that. I mean, I might even try to take you all down the way and close to south to the border, and we might talk a little James Tallarico if you have any opinions there.
Well, yeah, I do.
We've got an hour. We'll get to it all.
Sure.
But I'm giving you a preview because I didn't give you notes ahead of time. So there are your notes.
Yeah, I
So
appreciate
start
that. That's
ordering
good.
mentally. But
That's good.
Reviving America. We talked, I think, right after your first event, Reviving the Christian Faith in America back in February. You have another one coming up this Sunday night, Reviving the American Family. Doug Ritchie is the speaker. He's a former state rep from here in Missouri, a pastor as well.
Yeah.
And this one, I know that as you march through this year, you guys have set up some really neat, different programs, reviving the Christian roots of American freedom, the American family, Christian patriotism, education in America, concluding with something reviving the public square close to election time.
Yeah.
Or one of our election times. That's close to the November election.
Right.
Sunday, what are we looking at, and how would people find out about that and potentially take part?
Do you mind if I back it up a little bit just to explain a little bit of what we're doing?
Please feel free, only if you include a couple of alliterations, but please feel free.
Oh, wow.
If we're going to
now,
back it
really put me on the spot here.
You're a
Although
Baptist pastor.
I was going to say I am
it's in your
a
nature.
Baptist pastor. That's what we do. Reviving America is fundamentally a discipleship program, a discipleship series. It's birthed out of a church. I see my role as pastor as teaching the whole counsel of God, overseeing, caring for our flock, and that is going to include teaching them what God says about, of course, our central doctrines that are important to us, But we have to go beyond, our individual statements of faith and apply the Bible to every area of life. And as Americans, we are a self-governing people, so that means we really have to apply our theology to politics and to the civil realm and to the rights, responsibilities, privileges that we have. And so, last year, at the end of the year, after Charlie Kirk had died, I think a lot of people had woken up to what's going on in the world, and a lot of people said, "Hey, what can I do? How can I respond?" And as a pastor, my response is, "Well, we need to press into God's word, and we need to love Him with all of our heart, soul, mind, and strength, and love others as well. And that's going to include engaging in politics ultimately." And so, I've organized. There's 7 events on our calendar right now. The first one was focused on reviving the Christian faith. If Christians are going to be the salt and light in the world, we have to embrace our faith, know it, and live it out. And so I was basically hopefully giving Christians permission to be Christians, not only in their own hearts, in their own homes, in their churches, but out in the world. And everybody's called to, different vocations, but Christians should feel not only the permission, but the duty, as far as God allows them, to have an active role in governing, in advocating, in activism, in speaking the truth to, like I said, every area of life. And so we covered that the first session. That was February 1. You can find that session, that talk I gave, at revivingamericaevents.com. And you'll see our entire schedule there as well. On Sunday evening, March 15th at 5 o'clock at our church campus, First Baptist Church of O'Fallon. We'll be in our Family Life Center, because every good Baptist church is going to have a Family Life Center at some point. We are talking about the family. So it's the south side of our campus, if you're wondering. There's a big sign that says Family Life Center. You can't miss it. Doug Ritchie's coming. As you said, he's a former pastor. I think he was 3 decades a pastor in Missouri, Southern Baptist pastor. He served 3 different terms in the Missouri House, and now he works with the Alliance Defending Freedom, advocating, working alongside of legislatures across the Midwest to help them to craft and, I guess, to promote and ultimately pass God-honoring, First Amendment-supporting legislation. So he is going to come and talk about the family, the fundamental importance of the family, God's vision for the family, and also issues related to public policy as it pertains to the family. So that's coming up this Sunday. We'd love for anybody to come. Of course, I'm doing this. My primary responsibility is to our church, but we're doing this with an eye for the church more broadly, and for Christians more broadly, and conservatives more broadly, and anybody who wants to hear what Christians and conservatives think about these issues. So that's what's coming up in May. Bill Federer is going to be here. Of course, the historian, author of many books. By the way, I just learned the other day, he wrote a book on Islam in 2007. He's like way ahead of the game.
I have it on my shelf. I was just looking at it the other day.
I'm hearing the music. Is this?
We'll break it off, because I do want to hear the rest of the schedule, and I'd like you all to know. But you've ticked off something that wasn't even in my notes. I'm going to ask you about in the next segment, because I think it's a really interesting topic to talk about. But we'll be right back. Dr. Jonathan Swan, John is here with me, and we're going to get back into it on the other side of the reckoning, folks. Don't miss out after the break. Hey, back in on the reckoning, and another segment ahead. We're diving right back into the conversation. Got Pastor Jonathan Swan on with me here from First Baptist O'Fallon. He was just running us through this series, Reviving America Events, that's coming up over here at First Baptist in O'Fallon. Certainly open to anyone. RevivingAmericaEvents.com. RevivingAmericaEvents.com.
Nailed it.
All right.
Nailed it.
As soon as I said .com, you opened your mouth.
I was
like,
dang
it,
it's
like .org.
You got it.
RevivingAmericaEvents.com. Here's my question, though, which, by the way, of course, this Sunday, Reviving the American Family, former pastor, former state rep Doug Ritchie.
Yep.
In May, Bill Federer. How long are these? Is this about an hour and a half?
Yeah, this will be about 45 minutes to 60 minutes for Doug's presentation,
okay.
And then I'm going to have time for Q&A. It'll probably I will have questions for him, but then I might have like a text your question. I read it to him, sort of a deal. But we want it to be interactive. I want him to be able to talk to folks. Well, so an hour and a half for the whole thing.
Part of me wonders, just because I know Bill Federer and his speed of delivery, and it makes me wonder, are you giving him an hour and a half, or is he going to go at 1.5 times speed talking?
I'm going to let Bill do whatever he wants to do.
Because that man can give more historicity in a shorter time period than anyone on the planet I've ever met.
Yeah, he's astounding.
He's fantastic.
Bill is actually his will be a Saturday night, a little bit more extended. He'll have 2 different sessions, and he'll actually be preaching at our church on Sunday as well. I don't want to take people away from their own congregations, but he will be doing that. So, each night will be a little bit different. I mean, the Reviving Christian Patriotism one on July 3rd will be part of a church-wide, celebration of America, a time for us to express our thankfulness to God for the history we've had, the freedoms we've had. And at that one, I'm going to talk about how is it that Christians can actually have a love for our country? How can we love our country, express that love in a way that's not idolatrous, right? In a way that's responsible and rightly ordered. And so that one will be a little bit different only because it's going to be part of a celebration. We're trying to conceive of what do we have at that one? What kind of food do we have that's quintessentially American? If you have any ideas, let me know.
Cheeseburgers and hot dogs.
What about corn dogs?
Oh yeah, corn dogs. If you deep fry it, it's purely American. That's it. So
there we go.
Deep fried hot dogs, deep fried Oreos, deep fried Twinkies. These are the things, right? That we do
ice cream, apple pie. Yeah. So come and get your deep fried corn dog on July 3rd. We have an event on education on the 26th of July. That one's still being planned. The specifics, September 12th one, I'm not sure what that will look like because I might have any number of local politicians in for interviews, and I want people to be able to hear what they say.
Yeah.
And I want to talk to them about what the church is thinking about issues going on in our community. During that September 12th event, I really want to focus on localism. And you and I have talked about this before. Everyone out there who's maybe consuming this and other media, there's just a hyper focus on everything that happens globally or federally. When some of the most important things happening that affect us the most are things happening on our local school board,
right,
our own council people. So we'll try to have as many of them as possible in to talk about issues facing our time.
Some of the most attention, quite frankly, because that's where you find, especially in our April elections here in Missouri, our local stuff, that's where you find the lowest voter turnout. People are so disconnected, and yet that is such a connected level of politics to you, your family, your property taxes, your schools. That's where a lot of those decisions are coming from, and yet people are just wholly disconnected from it because that's not what's on the nightly news.
It's where you have the most influence as well, because you can just show up and talk to those council people, or show up to a board meeting and have a voice.
Right.
And so we need to steward that well. I'm learning as I go. Next time we would do this, maybe we should do the Reviving Public Square one before one of these elections, right? So anyway, that's in September. The big ones leading up to the pro-life issue that you mentioned at the outset. October 3rd, we're hoping to have Together for Life, which is our sort of annual pro-life event, and we are going to be educating people on what's at stake in the vote for Amendment 3 and what we seek to gain by passing it.
Now, there's I want to backtrack just for a second before we dive into that, because that's actually, you've got an assumption already there that it'll be on the November ballot. I kind of hope it'll be on the August ballot.
Oh, really? Okay.
I know that I don't think that's been set in stone.
It hasn't, yeah.
And I'd love it to be on the August ballot. I prefer ballot amendments to be at the primary level, because that often just finds a more engaged and understanding set of voters. A lot of people show up in November that are low information voters. They'll come to vote for one thing, whether it's Congress, Senate, or if it's a presidential year, heaven forbid. You have a big turnout, but it's not necessarily a well-educated set of voters as much as in the primaries. So that's usually I'm a fan.
Yeah, that's interesting. I've heard others say, "Hey, we hope it's at November, maybe because there's more of a turnout." But hey,
that's the key, though. Do you want a bigger percentage of people who know what they're doing, or do you want just a bigger number?
Sure.
I could argue either way. But you say something that before we get to that, because I do want to cover your article here, the post-Dobbs challenge for pro-lifers across the country here in Amendment 3, specifically in Missouri. But before that, you touched on something in the last one that I just want to stop off on, maybe 5 minutes here. When we talk about it, and I appreciate that, I do think it is important for Christians to be patriotic, to love this nation, as long as it stays, rightly ordered. You can have a love for your sports team. That's okay. But as long as it's rightly ordered, it doesn't come before your family, before your faith. I love my baseball, but this is ordered in the right place. As more Christians are jumping in, I'm seeing so many more podcasts and speakers and books and authors and a lot of conversations of Christians getting involved in the political and cultural arena. It interests me to wonder, as we apply our Christian faith, our theology to the world around us, politically and culturally speaking. One of the interesting things that I've seen come up, there is a very conservative world of individuals who are saying you hear a lot of Old Testament stuff coming up, and it kind of begs the question, well, hold on here. I know we adopt and, take all of Scripture, Old and New Testament. And this already kind of opens the door into the Texas, Senate conversation. You got a lot of people, though, with a watered down version of Christianity who like to really heavily lean on, Jesus, the peacemaker, love, kindness, and none of the, no, God is a just God who demands, adherence. And as such, we set up these things. How far do we go? Where is the line, if at all, where we say, well, we're not going to stone disrespectful children in our civil law, but we are applying our theology, but we're not going that far. We're not going to, do this and that. I kind of wonder, because you're seeing a lot of the more conservative, maybe you could call them patriarchal, even the Christian nationalist crowd who do run, and I consider myself Christian nationalist, but that begs the next question. What do you mean by that?
Exactly.
A lot of people are starting to apply some we might have some theocratic style looking stuff if we got, a hold of the lawmaking branch in this state.
Sure.
In your opinion, I'm just curious, how far do we as Christians carry that? Is there a point where we say, well, these are biblical things that are individually, you're responsible to the Lord, and this is the civil realm? Is there a line somewhere in there? What do you think?
Man, that's a huge 5-minute question here.
Sorry.
No, that is a question that requires us to understand how the entire Bible is put together. Mm-hmm. It's a question that requires that we understand the differences covenantally from Old Covenant to New Covenant. Theologians, Protestants, especially throughout the years, have divided the law, the Old Testament law, into 3 categories: the civil, the ceremonial, and the moral. The ceremonial, they would say, many generally, that Christ fulfilled the ceremonial aspects of the Old Testament law when he died on the cross. So those things relating to sacrifices and the temple, the altar, all those things are put away because Christ has fulfilled them. He's the once-for-all time sacrifice. So those are off the table. Well, we no longer live under an Old Testament theocracy or a theocracy through, divinely appointed kings. So a lot of the civil laws, the land appointments, so on and so forth, are off the table. So what we have left, most specifically, is what is called the moral law, and that is most often thought to be the 10 Commandments. Mm-hmm. Now, there's a real question even within that. How does the state relate to the 10 Commandments? Because we apply the second table of law, the 5th through 10th commandments, but what about 1st through 4? What about you shall have no other gods before me? How does the state relate to that law, right? No graven images, don't take my name in vain, honoring the Sabbath. So that is right now in conservative circles where that debate is happening, and I don't have any neat and tidy answers for it. However, I do believe that conservative Christians can rightly say we have what was a Christian society. I think the only way that American liberalism works, our constitutional order works, is if we have a republic that has embraced Christian principles. So I do not believe in an established church. There are some people who kind of want that in some ways. Right? I don't think we're supposed to do that biblically. We can't command. God can command people to work, but the state to worship him, but the state can't, right? But the state should do everything it can, I think, lawmakers, to pass laws that are consistent with Scripture. Now, when I say the moral law is still in play, it is, because it's God's law, it's God's enduring law. We discover that through a study of Scripture, both Old and New Testament. So we can still go back to the Old Testament, and there is much wisdom and moral commands that I think we must individually obey, and we should call our lawmakers to follow those laws. So when I advocate for pro-life laws, I'm finding texts for those laws all across the Old and the New Testament. So it's not either or, but that is one of the big questions. Today, is it established church or no? What role does the state have in promoting a particular religion above another? At the very least, we need to say that our laws should be consistent. We should call our legislators to make laws consistent with biblical morality. Otherwise, you're going to end up in eventually, atheism and all forms of oppression. You either have God's way or you have chaos and oppression.
Hmm. No, that was good. That's neat. No need for neat and tidy because I'm not looking for you to solve the world's problems. But that's certainly
Sure.
that's a big, interesting discussion I'm seeing pop
Oh,
up
yeah.
inside the right. I think it's a very good one to have because it helps us sort out our worldview
Most
even better.
definitely.
So we'll do that actually on the other side. Let's dive into Amendment 3, talk a little bit about your op-ed and what we have inside the right here in Missouri, the conversation that is bubbling over right now. We'll do that on the other side of the break. Dr. Jonathan Swan in with us, and we'll be right back.
It breaks his heart seeing.
Hey, welcome on back to The Reckoning. Into the next half of the hour we go. Say thank you to our fantastic show sponsor, Brian Dawson Roofing and Construction. We got another wave of weather coming through tonight. So first of all, make sure you're paying attention to the local meteorologists, the folks who can get away with being wrong most of the time, but that's okay. It's not their fault. It's the weather. It does whatever it does, and that's not their problem. But they'll give you up-to-date stuff. Make sure you're paying attention. We got some storms rolling through tonight. And I tell you what, if there's some wind damage, water finds its way in your home or business, Brian Dawson Roofing, top 5 company here in the western side of St. Charles County. They are standing by, ready to get to work for you. I would love for you to use them for your next project. If it's a renovation or if it's an unfortunate repair you got to deal with after a weather-related incident, they will handle it. Top quality materials and great quality teams getting it done right the first time and standing behind every job they do. BrianDawsonRoofing.com. Online, that's BrianDawsonRoofing.com, or on the phone, 636-465-9465. When you call them, when you get online, get your quote going, make sure you let them know that The Reckoning sent you. Thank them for sponsoring this program. We could not do it without them. Very important part of what we have going on here on the Real Talk Radio Network. Again, BrianDawsonRoofing.com. Thank you to them for sponsoring and letting us jabber on here for a couple hours a day. We appreciate them. I know that you will as well. But back to our conversation, I've got Dr. Jonathan Swan in with me. I feel like on the air that gives you some gravitas, so I'm sticking with doctor. I've
Okay, go
solidified
for it.
that. Halfway
Go
through
for
this
it.
process, I've solidified that. But
The logic is sound.
I agree. Thank you. I agree. But Dr. Jonathan Swan, pastor over at First Baptist O'Fallon, on staff there. RevivingAmericaEvents.com if you're interested in seeing more of his work that he's putting together, a huge series of events all throughout this year. You can find them there, including this Sunday, March 15, Reviving the American Family with former pastor and former state rep Doug Ritchie. That'll be going on Sunday night. Again, RevivingAmericaEvents.com. But you had an op-ed in World Magazine last week, last week that this went up, about Amendment 3 here in Missouri. And this has become a very hot topic amongst the right wing here in Missouri. And I'm actually kind of surprised at this because, like I said, if you were here with us at the beginning of the show at the top of the hour, I felt at one point like one of the very few that the lone voices of total abolition, total pro-lifism on the outskirts of the Republican Party, constantly fighting against an establishment machine that was compromised. And, we have to have an exception for this. We have to do this way. We can't go too far. I'm always like, yes, we can, because this is about a fundamental right that you really enjoy. Yeah. And guess what? That has to start somewhere. We start logically at conception. So I'm a no exceptions pro-lifer. Now, those 3 exceptions that have always snuck into the Republican argument are very hard to talk about. Rape, incest, life of the mother. These get into really dicey medical fields, moral and ethical fields to start parsing out, is this really an exception we need to make? Those are hard conversations to have. So I feel like a lot of people just usually say, I'm okay with that. Obviously, I'm against abortion, except it becomes very culturally acceptable. The question is, though, why? Is that necessary? Is that actually medically or statistically reasonable to even have these exceptions? And yet that was a conversation that didn't exist. It has firmly become front and center in the conversation about Amendment 3. Because now, after November of 2024, the bad Amendment 3, making us essentially a constitutional right to abortion at any time state, taking away a very solid pro-life state from the category of all 50.
Yeah. One of the most pro-life.
One of the most.
If not the most.
That was a devastating blow, and yet here we have one of the first major opportunities for the people to sound off on this with the new Amendment 3 this fall, and you say a yes vote is required. A lot of people are saying no because it doesn't go far enough. It has exceptions in it. It's an incremental move. It's not the full thing. We want to go back to the full thing. Why, Jonathan, should we vote yes on Amendment 3?
Yeah. I mean, I claim to be an abolitionist as well, meaning I want to completely abolish all abortion. Now, I think there are ethical situations where the life of the mother is right and proper. I don't believe that with regard to rape and incest. Okay. This bill that's put forward is to rectify what we unfortunately did in 2024. At that time, we enshrined a complete right to abortion, what we call reproductive rights. By the way, people don't know this, but I'm pretty sure that constitutional amendment also refers to women as like birthing persons. Okay, so we did a lot more in that constitutional amendment than just say, hey, you can get an abortion basically anytime you want. No one can infringe on that right. We did a lot more than that. So what's happening right now is since 2024, we had about 170 pro-life laws on the books. And those things happen incrementally over many years, even under Roe since 1973, such that by the time 2022 rolled around and the Dobbs decision came down, we had a trigger law that as soon as the Dobbs decision occurred, we became an abolitionist state. So my first argument is sort of historical. I don't actually get into all of this in that article. I'm going to have more articles coming out this year about this, but this is one that I really want to press this upon the consciences of the strict abolitionists, those who say you can only vote for a full ban on abortion. The history is, matter of fact, is that Missouri became an abolitionist state incrementally, through incrementalism. That is what I think we're doing here with Amendment 3. I say in my article, I don't think the current Amendment 3 goes far enough. It doesn't. It doesn't fully conform to God's law because it does allow for abortions to take place up to 12 weeks in the case of rape and incest. I forget the timeline in the exact specifications for fetal anomaly. Now, my understanding is that the fetal anomaly language applies to children who would not, by a medical examiner's opinion, be able to survive outside the womb. Okay. It also, this ballot language gives extra protections for minors, forbidding them from transgender surgeries or procedures. Now, we already have laws in the books, however, but in our current state of affairs, I'm like, every extra...
I'll take some extra assurance.
Yeah, every extra assurance counts. So my argument is this. The facts on the ground are, right now, the protections that we have for children and mothers are being litigated in the courts. The courts are actually writing their decisions right now. And in a couple weeks or months, I don't know the exact timeline, we can basically see the annulment of most of our 170 laws that protect innocent life and protect mothers who are trying to obtain an abortion. Amendment 3 will allow our legislature to again enact laws, safety laws for mothers that actually not only provide safety for the mothers, but actually end up making abortion very hard to obtain. What happened under Roe is even though we had a quote-unquote constitutional right to abortion, our state legislatures made it very difficult for abortion facilities to operate. And in fact, they didn't want to operate because they were under quite a lot of legal liability for doing so. And so practically these laws, even though they don't meet the I think God's standard, okay, of what justice is, the end result of these laws is going to be more children saved, more lives saved, fewer abortions, and I think that's what we want. That's the best option on the table. We have two options. One is basically complete unfettered abortion. The other option is we have a bill that is going to protect many young children, and I think get us down the road toward full abolition. Now, what I'm not saying is this, is that every Republican who's going to say we need to vote for Amendment 3 is the kind of person who wants to actually go all the way with me.
Keep going. Yeah.
But everybody knows this. We need to train consciences. People's consciences are quite marred right now on this issue. We don't really live in a pro-life America, even probably a pro-life Missouri, even though the Amendment 3 only passed by 1.6%, very slim. As a practical matter, you're not going to get full abolition in the next vote. Like, none of the polls said that you would do that. And so if you brought a full abolitionist bill before the Missouri populace, it would lose. And then you would lose support for what we actually want to do. And so I think that Amendment 3 is a step in the right direction. It builds momentum, helps us to continue training consciences so that we can eventually at some point, actually get a fully biblical law on the books. So I'm happy to say it's not good enough, but it actually is more biblical, more God-honoring than what we will have if we don't vote yes for Amendment 3.
And I have to say, I heartily agree with you, because that's the thing. My political side, I mean, I've been a Christian a lot longer than I've been working in politics, but on my political side, and this also was very, very, very heavily informed by working for a couple of really good folks, a great man in Congress who ran for Senate. And then, of course, I worked for Phyllis Schlafly for a number of years. And I always appreciated a lot of what I saw from them, which my version, not that I heard this quote directly from them, my version of their outlook on all of these things was, look, I want to be right, and I want us to do the right thing, but I also want to be effective. So, Phyllis Schlafly for a long time was not necessarily on the bandwagon of the personhood amendment, which was one of the big pushes. And I often would hear her talk about, well, it's not that that's not necessarily correct morally, it is, but also we've tried that and people just won't go that far. I'll take what I can get, and then we'll take the next thing we can get, and then the next thing we get. We have to, you have to call it what you will, shift the Overton window, change the conversation, keep people moving.
That's gradual. That's a gradual process.
Right. And you know what? I'll even concede the point. I don't know if I would 100% agree with you. Maybe we put a full abolition amendment on the ballot and Missourians vote for it. It's quite possible. I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball.
I'm not saying it's impossible, but
the reality is Jonathan Swan and Ryan Haidt cannot wave the magic wand and change what is currently coming to our ballot. So if this is coming down the pike, and we get to have a vote yes or no on it, the only logical and moral thing in my mind to do is a yes vote, period, to vote yes for Amendment 3, because it will take us from where we are now, which is a terrible place, greatly forward in the right direction. I would then, like you said, I would immediately argue, now, no one take this as a sign that, all right, cool, we're all done. We can
this is the beginning.
Wash our hands and move home. This has to then be, okay, now step 2. We immediately need our legislature to start moving to step 2. Because I agree with you. Some of the most effective things that we've seen, at least here in Missouri, I think a lot around the country as well, have been some of the more mundane things. Everyone, you can
things
get a lot
that you
of
don't get excited about,
Right. You can get a lot of the moderates to agree. Well, we should have, if there's an abortion facility, they should at least have hospital admitting privileges within a certain number of miles. You should have certain safety standards and cleanliness standards, just like a medical facility would have. And you get a lot of people on the moderate side who don't really care about abortion who would go, oh, well, of course, that makes sense. Well, guess what? That's going to knock out a lot of really sketchy abortion.
It did. It knocked out
facilities.
almost all of them in Missouri.
And it was wild when you saw some of those things passed. All of a sudden, tons of elective abortion facilities, facilities gone because they could not meet even basic standards, revealing, I think, the really dark side of the whole abortion industry as a whole. It is not a good picture. No. Everyone likes to talk about the horrors of the Kermit Gosnell story up in Philadelphia, and you say, guys, I don't think that's the exception as much as it is, quite frankly, the rule. And those kinds of rules, I think, revealed it. I absolutely agree with you. I think it's an excellent argument for Amendment 3. I completely agree with the people who are opposed to it. I understand their reasoning. I want that too. But if this is phase 1 and it's right here in front of us, I think it'd be very foolish to let that slip away. Take phase 1 and then immediately move to phase 2 and start pushing the legislature for more.
That's right.
So I agree. Folks, go read it. I'll post this article on my social medias as well at Based Ryan Haidt. I'll get it up here during the break if you want to read it yourself. And then we'll be back. One more segment here with Pastor Dr. Jonathan Swan.
There you go.
One more segment left this first hour on The Reckoning. Don't go anywhere. Hey, you're back on The Reckoning, into the final segment of the first hour. Still in studio with me, Dr. Jonathan Swan on the pastoral staff over at First Baptist O'Fallon here in St. Charles County. I will remind you, revivingamericaevents.com. They're doing a great series of things all throughout this year, just about once a month through the remainder of this year, at least until the election over there at FBC O'Fallon. RevivingAmericaEvents.com. The next one is this Sunday night, March 15, Reviving the American Family with Doug Ritchie, former state rep and a pastor for a number of years, decades here in Missouri. So go and check out that website. We were talking on the break. If you were here the last segment, I promised I'd post his article. I'll do that at the top of the hour. We were having too much fun talking off.
We sure were.
So I missed out on it. But I have one more question. Just in our last 5 or 6 minutes here in the hour, I am very curious. A lot of articles are starting to be written about this. I saw the first one on World Mag after yours, Dr. Al Mohler down at Southern Seminary in Louisville. And I know how to say it, Louisville.
You nailed it.
Yeah. My wife's from Kentucky. I know these things.
Yeah, Louisville's a great place.
It is. Louisville is a beautiful place. All of Kentucky is a beautiful place. But
And I was on the air there, and that was one of the first things they told me. I didn't live there, but I was piped in back with Clear Channel. Anyway, they told me, make sure you say Louisville.
Louisville. My
That's
old boss, Phyllis Schlafly, she corrected me very, very St. Louis, and she had a transatlantic kind of style of speaking, a little bit of an older school.
Yeah.
She always said, it's Louisville. And I was like, well, I married someone from near there, and it's Louisville. And she's like, that doesn't matter. It's Louisville. If you knew Phyllis personally, she would wave her hand and just dismiss you when you had a
You're like,
good
no,
point.
you're done.
Anyway, a great sense of humor. I joke. I'm not making fun of her. But the first thing I saw after this, the great clarification, and I have seen article after article after article this week about James Tallarico, the Democrat nominee for Senate down in Texas, and all of the absolutely wild, woke, watered-down versions of Christianity that I'm hearing come out of that man's mouth, that God is non-binary, all sorts of trans ideology stuff, everything. But this is really David French, none other than David French, who some people used to think was conservative, leapt into the conversation to defend him. And apparently he's had a brain injury over James Tallarico because the writing doesn't even make sense. I digress. There's your digress, Fish, in the first hour. But he's looking for keywords that all radio hosts use. There's a digression in the first hour.
Wow.
What do you think about this? I look at this and say, is this really the modern Democrat Party? Instead of kind of coming back to some moderation during election years, which you would think they'd get after the shellacking they took in November of 2024, when America put the bad orange man back in office, despite all of the left's pearl clutching. Their response, I would think, would be to go back to a little bit more of a moderate stance.
Yeah,
But
a
instead,
return to normalcy, right? Like
there's none of that.
2020.
It's just like, no, we're going to embrace the woke values harder, but now they're actually Christian woke values. And is this really the winning strategy? They think they're going to come up with?
No, I don't think it's a winning strategy, and I don't know how long that's going to last. Like when it actually comes down to actually electing a Democrat politician, I don't think that the hard left is going to be their strategy. But a couple things I want to say about James Tallarico is that the left loves Christianity. It loves Christianity when it mirrors, when they use the term Christianity to spout ideologies that mirror their own worldview. At the end of the day, they don't love Christianity unless it's Christianity in pursuit of and in instrumental use of their own worldview. So James Tallarico uses Christianity as a chaos agent, as a deceiver, and as a confuser. None of what he's saying, none of what I have heard him say, is even remotely Christian. What he was, I mean, just the other day, I tweeted out, I guess I was responding to David French's terming him a decent Christian. I mean, I guess you could call him a Christian in terms of the fact that he identifies as one, but his doctrine is nowhere close to Orthodox Christianity, whether that's Catholic, Eastern Orthodox, Protestant, whatever. What he has is a different religion called leftism that he baptizes in Christian terms. And so any discerning Christian will know that. And I don't think that ultimately is going to be a winning strategy, but I would tell Christians, obviously stay away from that kind of deceit. He is merely dunking his leftism in terms that you might share with him. It's not Christianity at all. It's like, this is exactly what J. Gresham Machen said in his Christianity and Liberalism in like 1925. Yeah. He said liberal Christianity isn't Christianity at all. It's a different religion. Right. That's what's going on here. It's a different form of liberalism. It's not necessarily the anti-supernatural kind. It's the anti-God's morality. It's contrary to biblical morality. That's really the battlefront at this point with respect to liberalism today. So
yeah, I think you're absolutely right. We'll see. I'm curious if we'll get more James Tallarico type candidates around the country, or if this is going to be an experiment that I hope Texas soundly rejects and sends back to the pits where it belongs.
That's right.
It's absolutely terrible. Jonathan Swan, thank you so much for being on with me. Folks, go check it out. World Mag, WNG.org, the Post-Dobbs Challenge for Pro-Lifers, his article up on Amendment 3, and RevivingAmericaEvents.com. I appreciate your time so much.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's always a joy.
We'll do it again. I talk too much. I would rather hear more from you. So we'll have to do it again. That's my excuse to get you back.
Okay.
Folks, we'll be back after the top of the hour. Stick around after the news. Hour 2 of The Reckoning is on the way.
Every day